welcome to Channel 1 and welcome to another hour of SAP Community Insights. So one thing we love most about SAP TechEd is hearing from you and members of our community. And to add even more external voices to this year's show, we are going to be welcoming two very prominent members of our community for community talks. And in the next hour, we will have Tammy Paulus, who will be sharing insights on S/4HANA migration. And after that, we will hear from Mike Doyle on ABAP Core Data Services. And then around the end of the hour, we will be joined here on stage by Mamiki for a remote check-in with Diego Dora. So lots to look forward to. But before we jump into our first SAP Community Talk, can you tell us a little bit more about how we chose the community talks? What was the process? How are they here in the show?
Of course. So basically, the community talks is really about bringing experts in from the community and giving them a voice here at TechEd, right? And so it's really about giving them an opportunity to share their experiences, their knowledge, all about the products and technologies we have here at SAP with the rest of the community, as well as with us here, right? So how we chose them was pretty simple. Like, we made the proposals open, right? Everyone could contribute, everyone could bring in their own proposals. And we chose the speakers just based on what we found is most interesting to you as the audience here at TechEd. So not saying that all the other proposals weren't interesting, but we just chose the most interesting ones we thought are relevant to you. And just the speakers we have here with us at TechEd, they just have amazing skills and projects they work on. So we just want to welcome them to share their experiences right here.
And of course, I mean, our first ones, right? Mike Doyle and Tammy Paulus. Anyone who's been part of the community at all would know these names. They're very prominent. They're active in the community. They're answering questions. They're available in the topics for discussion. So, of course, very important people that we're going to have. So let's introduce Tammy. So Tammy is an America's SAP User Group volunteer, so an ASUG volunteer. She's an SAP mentor. She's a certified public accountant, a certified project management professional with several SAP certifications. She was a top contributor to the SAP community from 2011 to 2016. She served on the SAP Mentors Advisory Board. She's an SAP community moderator, and she is this year's ASUG Volunteer Award winner. And her community talk is titled Brownfield and a Big Bang Approach to SAP S/4HANA. So let's give a very warm welcome to Tammy Paulus.
Hi, Tammy.
Hi, Tammy.
Hi.
Hey.
Welcome to the Developer Lab. How are you?
Hi, Cecily. Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
Great. Happy to be here from Northern Virginia.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. I think actually the first question I want to ask you is about the title of your community talk. So, Brownfield and a Big Bang Approach to S/4HANA. Give us some details about the title.
Well, Brownfield is because we did a migration from ECC, ERP 6.0 Enhancement Package 8. And I think when we initially started this project, we were thinking, oh, do we leave HR behind and keep it in ECC and then migrate to S/4HANA? And what we found through the sandbox migrations we did, you do it all at once. And of course, given that we've been in lockdown, for almost 2 years, we did most of this work during the pandemic. So a lot of people worked remotely. Of course, our hosting partner is remote. So that's how I came to the name of the session.
Perfect, great, thanks for sharing that. And let's start then with, how did you build your business case for SAP S/4HANA?
Well, Cecily, 2 years ago, SAP, pre-pandemic, came on site to our company and they gave us workshops, and they held workshops with each of our business units like finance, procurement, warehouse, and asking people, okay, what are your pain points? What things are you struggling with? What's working well? And they also had workshops with our executives, and their pain points included, reporting and mobile access. And that's how we helped build our business case to S/4HANA. The other thing that we did last year is we joined the SAP S/4HANA Move program by SAP Enterprise Support, and we were joined by about 30 other utilities, building the business case a little more formally and as a group, going through SAP's tools like the Business Transformation Navigator and going through all the SAP templates. And I thought that was a big help to see where other utilities were at.
Yeah, awesome. So it sounds like SAP's really been influential in that as well. And how did SAP support you in the process of migrating to SAP S/4HANA?
So I already mentioned the S/4HANA Move program,
Yep.
and I encourage everybody to take a part of that. And then I think I went to every enterprise support offering, like Meet the Experts, expert guided implementation. Some I attended twice. Like there's an expert guided implementation on finance migration to S/4HANA, and sometimes I was the only person there. So I think this is great content from SAP Enterprise Support that people need to take advantage of. The other thing that I learned from these expert guided implementations is SAP Enterprise Support has an enterprise guides program. And they joined us at the start of the project earlier this year, giving us checklists at each phase. And like towards the end, it was like, okay, you're using an outdated software upgrade manager. And so we accepted that risk. And the other thing that they gave us at the end was they suggested that we have a visual picture of our cutover weekend plan. And I think that was a big hit. So I think SAP has been a big help on this S/4HANA migration journey.
Good, and that's great to hear, and you also had some good tidbits of advice in there. So the next question is, did you use a system integrator?
No, that's a great question. And Cecily, I credit our Fairfax Water Management. Our Fairfax Water Management said, go ahead and try the sandbox migrations and see how you do. And, miraculously, we got through the 2 sandbox migrations. And so I think our management said, okay, it doesn't seem like you need outside help for this. So really, it's a credit to our management having faith in us as a team, getting the job done.
Well, very well done and very impressive as well. And how long would you say the project took overall?
Well, we started on the production side in mid-January and we went live July 4th. So it was under 6 months. But then in the previous years, we did those 2 sandbox migrations that I talked about. And that's really where you get your feet wet and you learn, how to do the migration, how to do the customer vendor integration, how to do the finance migration because your table structures change. And the other thing is you learn the hard way that it's not an upgrade. It's a migration. It's much bigger than an upgrade. So it took a while. We weren't working on it full time when we were doing the sandbox migration.
Okay, and you did just talk about how it's not just an upgrade, it is a migration, but what would you say would be the biggest efficiencies that you have noticed now after having done your move to S/4HANA?
Well, our accounting team, with S/4HANA, the big changes are in S/4HANA Finance. So our accounting team, day one, saw efficiencies, being able to search by fund and fund center, because when you migrate to S/4HANA, FI and CO become married. And so it's a new experience for accountants. And I can say this as a CPA, to go from the trial balance and drill down to the individual asset. And then they're also starting to use SAP Analysis Office to use it like a pivot table against the S4 Universal Journal, which has millions of records, but it's incredible the speed that comes back, that they're able to use Excel as a pivot table against the SAP Universal Journal. It's a new day, and they're able to replace some of their audit schedules with SAP Analysis for Office.
That's awesome. It really sounds like it's been a massive improvement then. And what would you say are some opportunities for improvements to share from your project? So what are some lessons learned?
Cecily, I'd say authorizations. Even though there are some great free open SAP courses on S/4HANA, and they covered this, that, you need to look at your authorizations, and there's tools you can use like SU25 that'll pop out some of the authorization objects. When you move to S/4HANA, like all your vendors become business partners. And of course, that brings along a lot of different authorization objects across the board. The other thing that we learned is there seems like SAP added a new authorization object on the F4 help. So that was another across the board. So I think we hit every role in the system, and most of our issues after go live were authorization related, because we didn't have that opportunity to spend more time on authorizations, and that would have been nice. But a lesson for the future, and hopefully others can learn from our experience.
Yeah, of course. And how much would you say that authorizations change?
Quite a bit, and more than you think. I'm really surprised that we don't hear people talking about what the changes are in authorizations. I think SAP becomes more, and you almost have to these days, more restrictive in each of these objects, and I can understand why, because you're having your customers and your vendors become business partners, and there's a lot of sensitive data in those master data objects. So I can understand why SAP did that. But again, you don't hear a lot of discussions surrounding authorizations. There were some in the Open SAP course, but I don't hear. We didn't hear from others that authorizations was a top issue after go live.
Yeah. Okay. And if you could do one thing over from your project, what would it be?
I think I'm going to go back to that authorizations. I think if we had more time, or maybe in some of the dress rehearsals, we just had an authorization exercise. It just didn't seem. I think we felt after, because we did 2 dress rehearsals, which SAP recommends. I think we thought we hit them all, but of course we really didn't. And I think that would be one thing I would like to do over again, just to have an authorization testing exercise.
Okay, great. And thank you for sharing that as well. And you talked a little bit in your first answer, but what were some of the resources you used when moving to SAP S/4HANA?
Well, I forgot to mention the early adopter program. We joined the early adopter program, and they were a huge help because we had weekly meetings with them. And we also had a developer angel from the SAP Regional Implementation Group who helped us. And then they would show us some training in S/4HANA on each of the big changes, like finance and materials management and embedded analytics. So those are things that I would highly recommend people take a look at the early adopter program. We also, thanks to the SAP Utilities community, we learned about the SAP Regional Implementation Group boot camps. There's a 10 steps to S/4HANA boot camp. And we did that last year with 40 other companies. And what you do is you have your basis team, your ABAP team, and your functional team. You all migrate an instance of ECC to S/4HANA. 10-step program. I think that really gave us the confidence to go live with SAP ourselves. The handbooks you get from them are just outstanding. I used them on go live weekend. They were my crutch. I had a couple printouts of them everywhere. So just to be sure that things went well, and it's good to see that out of the 40 companies, 39 went live. One had issues due to the pandemic, but that was a huge help. We also did the 5 steps to Fiori bootcamp, where you sort of do the same thing. You look at what Fiori applications are applicable to your system in a systemized way, and then you apply Fiori through your different teams, your basis and your developers and your functional teams. So those were some great resources. I highly recommend the SAP Regional Implementation Group bootcamps.
Awesome. And it is so nice to talk to you and hear so much about all of the resources that you've been using, right? I mean, I see these things and I hear about them in the community, but it's so nice to hear directly from somebody who's taken advantage of them and has been a part of them. So thank you so much for sharing those. And what would you say are some key elements when customers are thinking of preparing to a move to SAP S/4HANA? What should they keep in mind?
Well, they need to, I think, even if you're going to use a system integrator, which I think would be awesome to use a system integrator because they've got more experience of migrating to S/4HANA than we do. I think they need to understand the steps and the things that are going on themselves. Like, when you migrate to S/4HANA, like I said, you're changing database structures, you're changing authorizations, and to take advantage of the things that come with S/4HANA. I think, we're going to start activating the Fiori apps and the embedded analytics. And I didn't want to forget to mention that there's a great Open SAP course on S/4HANA embedded analytics. So take advantage of all those free resources that are out there, the Open SAP courses, the boot camps, the SAP Enterprise Support, the S/4HANA Move program, the community, and of course, sessions at TechEd. Because last year, and I think the past 2 years I've attended S/4HANA migration sessions at TechEd, which were outstanding. Those things give you the confidence to move forward to S/4HANA, even if you're going to outsource the move. You want to understand what's happening in your system.
Yeah, of course. So this is the second time we have seen you in Channel 1 today. So how are you enjoying Tech Ed so far, and what are you most looking forward to?
Well, that's a great question, Cecily. I'm so glad not to have to attend any more S/4HANA migration sessions, so I can learn more about the business technology platform, because we do own the business technology platform, but we haven't been able to implement it. The plan is to use it more next year, and I want to attend more sessions on that and more sessions on SAP Data Warehouse Cloud and the low code, no code, and I'm really excited today about the free learning at learning.sap.com. So those are things that I'm really looking forward to, and looking forward to attend some hands-on workshops tomorrow and Thursday.
Yeah, I hope you can continue to enjoy it. And I think you also had some interesting insights as well earlier on just the executive keynote. So how did you feel about that overall? Was there anything that surprised you or stood out to you, or things that you wish had been there that weren't, for example?
Well, I'm glad everybody got to learn more about the free tier on the business technology platform, which fortunately I got to experience during that great Devtoberfest that Kevin was a part of, and the low code, no code in the free learning area. That's great. And then, of course, the SAP BW Bridge, being able to move your SAP BW assets to the cloud. And the only thing, and of course, Jürgen covered the use cases in the Discovery Center for BTP. So those are things that I was glad to see in the keynote.
Awesome. Well, Tammy, I want to say thank you so much. It truly was an honor to have you here at SAP Tech Ed again. It was great to see you, and I hope you remain active in the SAP community. I know you will. So thank you so much for joining, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye, Tammy.
Bye-bye. So thanks, Tammy. Thanks, Cecily. It was a great conversation, great interview right there. And just a highlight for me was really just the whole approach of migrating to SAP S/4HANA and how she accomplished that, right, without an SAP system integrator. And also just the time frame it took to accomplish that was pretty impressive. So I would say if you are on the same journey there, make sure you follow those tips we just learned. And if you want to pick more of those smart brains, the SAP community is really the spot where you want to go, because Tammy is on there as well, and you can find all the latest and greatest work she's doing, all the cool ideas she's sharing there. So make sure, if you're not already, go and be part of the SAP community.
Yeah, because Tammy's there, Mike, that we're going to hear from in just a minute, is there. There's many other people that are part of the community, and you can join into the Coffee Corner discussion. So the Coffee Corner is more just around any topic that comes to mind, really. You can hop in there and people will chat with you about it. There's new this year, which is the SAP Tech Ed group, or the idea of groups in general, which is basically a conversation that's centered around one topic, but you can post about anything. There's the question and answer section. So if you have a technical question, that's definitely the place to go. So share your feedback, join the community, post about a blog post. There's several people who are interested to hear your insights as well. So take from the community but what you need, and also kind of give back. So it's a very come as you are atmosphere, which is really what I love most about it. And also, just like you saw in the community talk, these are people who really have a lot of experience. You know, there's experts that are there, and they're really just a well of knowledge that you can gain from being part of that. So
Right.
Who's up next, though? We have another community talk, Mike.
Speaking of experts, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we got Mike up next, and he is an independent developer with over 20 years of experience in the SAP ecosystem. And he's originally from the UK, and I met him in Sydney, and he moved there in 2015, I think, and organizes the local SAP Stammtisch, so you might know him from there. And also, he presented, he does a lot of work in the SAP ecosystem, in the SAP community, so he presented on technical topics at Inside Tracks, and also, of course, on SAP Tech Ed events. So some of his favorite technologies with SAP is SAP Business Technology Platform, UI5, workflow management, and the cloud application programming model as well. And today we're going to talk to him about the ABAP Core Data Service views and how they could save you a lot of time developing SAP Fiori apps. And without further ado, let's welcome Mike in the studio. Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
Hi, hello from Sydney.
Hey.
Hi,
It's great to be here.
Mike. Great to see you again.
So you ready for our interview?
Yes, sure.
Great. So I know you're always working on a lot of projects, right? And I'm really interested in hearing from you, what is that you have been working on lately?
Well, this year I've been working on 3 main projects for 3 different customers. The first one was some extension apps for S4HANA Cloud. So that was using the Cloud Application Programming Model that you mentioned, and also the Cloud SDK. I had another project where I developed a Fiori Elements overview page. And the last project, I did some bespoke apps, some custom Fiori apps. And those last 2, actually, it was very exciting because I got to use ABAP CDS in anger, if you like, for the first time. So that was very exciting for me.
Cool. So I know CDS, Core Data Services, from the Cloud Application Programming Model. I've used it there a little bit to build up the service. So what is it in the context of ABAP? So what is ABAP CDS?
Yeah, so there's, like many things, it's complicated. But there's, what we're talking about today is ABAP CDS, which is distinct to CDS and CAP and HANA CDS. So what we're talking about today, the ABAP CDS, as you mentioned, CDS is Core Data Services, or sometimes Core Data and Services. And in the ABAP flavor, what we're talking about is actually an ABAP artifact. So we edit our ABAP CDS views in the ABAP developer tools in Eclipse, and we move them around with transports like any other ABAP artifact. And really what we're talking about is it's a modeling layer. So what we're doing is we're describing the tables that we want to access, which fields we want to use. And most importantly, we're describing the relationships between those tables, how we can fit them together, how we can join them. And it's not just simply exposing the fields as they are in the database. We can also do some transformations. We can do aggregations, like counts and totals and averages. And we can also do calculated fields. So for example, we could do a percentage. So let's say we have 2 different fields and we can do a percentage calculation and put that into our CDS view.
That's pretty cool. So coming to the topic, how can ABAP CDS actually save us time when developing Fiori apps?
Well, these days with Fiori apps, often what you have is a very interactive experience with the user. So if you look at a list report template, for example, which is a very common one, we give a user a data set and we allow them to arrange the data in the way that they want. So they can choose the fields that they want to look at. They can sort it however they want. They can apply grouping if they wish, and they can filter by many of the different fields and filter in combination of the fields. So that's the kind of app that we want to deliver. Now, you can do that by just manually coding a gateway service to provide your OData service for that's the API for your Fiori app. You can do all of that manually, but it can be very intensive to do that. It can take a long time because you've really got to cater for every different scenario. So what ABAP CDS gives us is it makes it very easy to provide that really fully functional OData service very quickly. And the magic that does it is a framework called Saddle, which is essentially thousands of lines of standard SAP code that's enabling you to turn your CDS view, your ABAP CDS view, into a fully functional OData service, so that then the user can sort by any field, filter by anything, and you haven't had to actually code any of that. It's all just happening almost by magic.
That's good to hear. So when we're talking about Fiori apps here, is it then really just like ABAP CDS being relevant to Fiori Element apps, or is there something else behind that?
Well, it is very useful for Fiori Elements. And as I said earlier, one of the projects I worked on this year was an overview page, and I used ABAP CDS for that. And most of the Fiori Elements, or the Fiori Elements apps, they will provide that really kind of interactive approach for the user. As I've described, the user gets to control the data and how it's displayed. So that, for the reasons I've just described, that makes ABAP CDS a really good fit for Elements. And there's also the fact that we can put the annotations, the UI annotations, directly into the view. So next to where we're working out essentially the business logic of where the data is going to come from, what calculations we're going to do, we can put in annotations to drive the UI. So going back to the example I had before, maybe you have 100 fields in your data set, in your list report, and you don't want to give the user 100 fields to start off with. So you can nominate, say, the 15 fields that are the most important, and you can add UI annotations to tell the UI that these are the 15 important fields that should be shown first. And then the user can change that selection if they wish. But it's important to note that you can also use ABAP CDS in your custom apps as well. So there are smart controls in UI5, and they're actually the controls that are used in Fiori Elements. So you can take that part out, the smart table and the smart filter bar, for example, and you can put those into your own apps. So you can have a lot more control and do something that's quite different to the Fiori Elements patterns, but you're still gaining from all that smart logic that's already been built. So you can pull that out and use it in your own apps as well. So it's definitely not just for Fiori Elements.
Cool. That's good to know. So if we talk about persistence, I know that ABAP CDS works really, really well with HANA. But it's like, can we also use another database or something? Like, is it just only for the HANA?
Yeah, that's right. For ABAP CDS, you can actually use it with other databases. So if you're on ECC, you can actually use ABAP CDS with any of the supported databases for ECC. So if you're on DB2 or you're on Oracle, for example, you can go ahead and use ABAP CDS. But what I'd recommend is that you check out the guide, which is called Best Practice Guide CDS for Business Suite. And in there, they describe the features that are specific or the things to watch out for on the different databases. So, for example, if you're on an older version of Oracle, there can be some issues with parameters. And this guide tells you all about these particular things to look out for. But you can use it on any supported database.
That's cool.
Not just HANA.
Great. So ABAP CDS really sounds like a superhero to me, which can handle like everything, but can it really?
There are a few limitations. One of them is we can only really consume regular kind of table, which is called a transparent table. So there are some corners of the system, some corners of ECC where there are still older types of tables. So an example is pricing conditions in the table conv. That's a cluster table, and we can't just pull those straight out into our CDS view. Another thing is there are some things which, as ABAP developers, we'd normally consume with a function module. One example here would be, say, getting the container elements for a workflow. We wouldn't normally just go directly into the tables to get those. But there is a way we can work around that. We can create a kind of dummy field, and which has a fixed value of a space or 0, and that will be exposed in our view and in the metadata. And we can just mix in some of our custom coding in the OData service to populate those values where we have an issue like that.
So what about updates, though?
Updates are complicated. The ABAP CDS wasn't really designed for updates, and there are ways you can handle that, and it really depends on what kind of system you're on.
Okay.
But that's probably a topic for another whole session.
So we do that on another time then. So what I know is that code pushdown can really help put the workload to the database and loosen up the workload on the front-end side. So how does ABAP CDS relate to that?
Yeah, ABAP CDS is actually a great example of code pushdown because we're really doing all of the work in the database. So when I've started writing ABAP, we were always taught to do minimal work in the database, transfer a really big data set to the application server, and then do all the work there. But now we have a much faster database in HANA. Then that's actually not the optimal way to go. And of course, that's a big part of the reason for the existence of S4HANA is that we're now optimizing and for that faster database and doing code pushdown. So ABAP CDS is actually a really good example of that because exactly what we do, we get the database to do everything and then just transfer a small result set to the application server. So if you look at it in the round, it's actually really awesome because it means, first of all, we can build these really interactive apps that are much like some of the standard apps in S4HANA. Mm-hmm. We can build them today, even if we're still on ECC and we're not on HANA. We can build those apps. ABAP CDS helps us to do that.
Cool.
And also, it's a method that's really consistent with the future path. So when we move to S4HANA, there will be lots of standard Fiori apps that are using ABAP CDS in much the same way. So we can do this today, but it's really not quite future-proof, but it's definitely consistent with that future environment. So if you look at those three factors, it's really quite a compelling tool to use.
Okay, it's good to know. So if I want to get started with the whole thing, how do I know if ABAP CDS actually will work well on my system?
Well, like most things, I would say the best thing to do is to just try it out. So you need to, if you're not already using the ABAP developer tools in Eclipse, then you need to get that set up. But the best thing to do is to just try it out. It's really quite easy. But I would say before you start, you should really speak to the basis team and check out what kind of database release you're on. Mm-hmm. So the newer the database release you're on and the more highly patched it is, the better time you'll have, essentially. You can't assume that everything is going to work flawlessly and be very, very fast if you're making very demanding views with lots of calculations and so on. So the best thing to do is to try it out. But before you start, speak to your basis team and find out, is your database due patching? Is there an upgrade pending? Can that be speeded up? Because if you can upgrade your legacy database, then it's going to make things a lot nicer. And read that best practice guide that I described earlier.
So speaking of this guide, last quick question: where can people learn more if they want to get started?
Yeah, so read the section in the guide on your database. And I also found actually the standard ABAP help is really good for seeing all of the different things that you can do in the view. So I would just check that out and just try things out.
Great. Mike, I want to thank you so much for joining us here in the studio live at Channel One on SAP TechEd this year. It was a great pleasure talking to you, seeing you again, and talking about CDS. And with that, thanks again, and hopefully see you next time as well.
Thank you, Mike. Great to see you.
So, what's up next?
All right. So that was great to see Mike on the studio and Tammy, both of them together. And what we're going to do next is, we've been having a lot of fun, but I think it's about time for an activity break, don't you think?
I would say so. I feel really tight.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So what we're going to have up next is one of our personal trainers in SAP Dublin, Joanna Agnew, has put together a video for us on how we can break up our home office days, get rid of that desk chair stagnation, and just get up and move and stretch and move our bodies so we're not just sitting in the chair all day at the computer, that I know that's usually what all of us are doing. So she's going to share some tips and trips on how we can do that. But before we do that...
Like Casimir's visiting us again.
What? Hi, Casimir.
So Casimir's starting doing yoga already. So is there like something you already do at home? Like, you know, like we're in the home office like for over 2 years almost. Like most of the audience out there probably is as well. So is there anything you do already to, you know, get your move on and not sit on your desk all day? Because you're like in the office, like you walk to the coffee machine, you meet with colleagues, you go to the canteen and so on. And now this is all kind of gone away.
Yeah, it's definitely a completely different setup now being at home, right? Because you wake up and you're already at work.
Right.
So sometimes I think it's also hard sometimes to find the balance between working and your home life and finding that balance. But what's really been helpful for me is getting out and walking. And I really appreciate that in the area that I live, I have a lot of green spaces.
Yeah.
So I usually like to go out there, get some fresh air, get out in the trees, you know what I mean? Just
Right.
move my body and get active, because I really think it makes a huge difference if you can take a break from your work and come back. Because I know a lot of times, especially with the type of work we do, you get into it, you know, you get into your project and you dive in deep, and then you're like, I can't take a break, I have too much to do. But they
Right.
really, I mean, it really makes a big difference if you just take 5 minutes, go outside, get
Yep.
a fresh air, especially if you're just at home. Because before,
Right.
like you said, you'd go and get a coffee, but when we're at home, you're just going to get a coffee and it's still you in your head. And I think sometimes you need to get out and meet with other people and just kind of shake things up.
And you know what helps me with that?
What?
Just not wearing sweats all day. So I actually dress like I would go to work. So I'm ready if I want to.
Yep.
And can go outside, because I do not enjoy wearing sweats when I go out. So
Yeah.
I just dress in jeans and a sweatshirt, and it's just like, go.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed. All right, so let's go ahead and get those tips directly from Joanna Agnew.
Hi guys, my name is Joanna and I'm the personal trainer based here in SAP Dublin. I'm delighted to be with you guys today to hopefully show you some exercises that you can bring during your day to break up those long bouts of inactivity, especially if you're sitting at your desk all day. Most of us, as you already know, have been working from home or a hybrid of working from home or in the office over the last year and a half or so. And while that's been fantastic that we've been able to do that, the downside of that is that we've been spending a lot more time seated and a less time moving. So one of the reasons some people have said to me that they kind of forget about moving, or they kind of don't realize that they've been sitting for so long, is that they get engrossed in their task or what they're doing. Suddenly 2-3 hours have disappeared and they've not moved from their seat. So the way that I would recommend to combat that or to get over that is to set a reminder on your PC, on your phone, just to go off maybe every 30 to 60 minutes or so, just as a kind of a reminder to kind of get up away from your desk, shake out your arms, shake out your legs, maybe take a walk around, maybe bring in some squats or some exercises, or maybe just do some gentle stretching for yourself, or even just maybe 2-3 moments to breathe. So with that in mind, I'm going to invite you today to come through just a small movement session with me. I'm going to go through some exercises that hopefully will help you to break up your inactivity during your day. So with that in mind, let's take a moment to just step away from our desk. So I'm going to invite you to stand up now, plant down through your feet, and standing up nice and tall, lengthen out through your spine. And the first exercise I'm going to show you today is going to be a neck roll. So we're going to release a little bit of the cervical spine here, cervical spine, and it can get quite tense and quite tight when we sit at our desks a lot of the time. So with that in mind, I'm going to demonstrate that movement for you now. And take it back to center. So that was your neck rolls. Again, just release into the cervical spine. The next one we're going to do is going to do a chest opener, just to release and open up the chest a little bit and bring some movement into our shoulders as well. So again, standing up nice and tall, planting down through your feet, roll the shoulders back, and we'll set up. So that was our chest opener. So you could do 3, even 4 or 5 rounds of that, and just make sure you get that nice squeeze into your shoulder blades when you bring those elbows back and down. And the next exercise we're going to move down to is our hips. We're going to start to mobilize into our hip joint a little bit now as well. Again, when we sit for long periods of time, that can get quite stuck. So it's nice to allow a little bit of mobilization and encourage that synovial fluid to come into those joints and lubricate them for yourself. So again, standing up nice and tall, again, planting down through the feet, soft bend through the knees. Awesome. So that was our nice hip circles. And again, you can make those circles as big or as small as your body allows you to do them. The next exercise, we're going to do a little bit of strengthening, a bit more activation into our glutes a little bit. So we're going to bring in the squat to stand. So this is an everyday movement. And again, most important points on this is taking your feet just slightly over shoulder width apart. You might like to turn your toes out a little bit, but if you are, make sure that the knees are tracking in line with the second toe. Also, you want to make sure that the weight goes back towards your heels and your chest is up nice and tall too. Awesome. So that was your squat to stand. The next exercise we're going to go through again is a little bit more of a hip opener as well. And again, a little bit more of a shoulder extension too. So it's called a lunge into reach. You can use the chair for balance if you need to, or you can do it freestanding, whichever way you prefer. Feet are on train tracks and hips stacked over in the center of your body, spine nice and tall. Just remember, guys, just to go as far as your body will allow you to go. No forcing at any stage during your session. So guys, the next part of this practice is just a little bit of breath work. I'm just going to show you a little bit of breath work just to finish off. So I invite you now to sit down in your chair, sit towards the edge of the seat, lengthen through your spine. So grow nice and tall through your spine as you root down through your sit bones. Place your hands on your lap. They can be face up, face down. Roll the shoulders for a moment to open up that chest. And I'm going to invite you to breathe in through your nose, if it's available to you. If you're blocked up, that's okay, you can use your mouth. But if you can, in through your nose and breathe down into the belly. So we're going to focus on that diaphragmatic breath. So inhaling in through the nose, pausing, and then exhale, just let it release, let it go. And again, in through the nose once again. Pausing, and again, just letting it go. Last one now, deepest breath you take. Pause, and gently just let it all go. And then when you feel ready, gently open the eyes if you have them closed and return back to your desk. As you can see, there's loads of different ways that you can bring movement into your day, but it doesn't have to be as structured as that. You can also bring in ways of moving without even thinking about it. Something simple like filling a smaller glass of water or a smaller water bowl will make you have to get up off your chair and refill it more times during your day. Other ideas can be using the kitchen as a tool to get moving. So when you're waiting on the kettle to boil to have your cup of tea or your coffee in the morning, maybe bust out a few squats, maybe a few press-ups. You might like to do a little bit of stretching. Again, there's loads of different ways that you can get creative with it. The one that I really love is by bringing some music into it. So I love to have a bit of a dance. So I play my favorite tunes, the alarm goes off, play my favorite tune for that day, and I just have a bit of a dance. Just 3-4 minutes, not thinking about it, just moving in what way it feels good to me. And it's amazing the difference mentally and the focus it brings and the good form it puts me in. So it's all really about being creative and moving in ways that feel good for you and your body and empower you. So loads of endless possibilities in that. The main thing to be aware of is just allow yourself to have fun with it, guys. So I really hope that you found this beneficial, and I really hope you enjoy the rest of your event. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, guys, motion is the lotion.
I hope you really enjoyed that stretch and loosen up all your muscles and all of that. Like, I feel way more relaxed now, right? Don't you?
Little shoulder roll was nice.
So, but you know what? We have Memiki here live in the studio with another remote check-in. So let's welcome Memiki here. Hi.
Thank you, Kevin. So we are taking our remote check-in to Argentina with our SAP mentor, Diego. Hi, Diego. How are you?
I'm doing great, Mamiki. What about you? All good?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So first and foremost, how are you enjoying TechEd so far?
Oh, I'm enjoying it a lot. We're having a lot of fun here at the house with the girls. So, I happen to be also with my daughters, coming in and out from the office, watching the sessions. Some of those are more interesting for them. Some of those are not so interesting. But I will say, the last one, definitely interesting for them. But yeah, we're having a lot of fun here. It's around dinner time. That's why they are not with me. But yeah, all good.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that. So you are a SAP mentor. Could you tell me, when did you become an SAP mentor, and how have that been so far for you?
Absolutely. So I joined the program around August of 2016. I have to, at the time I knew the program. I knew many of the mentors through the SAP community and YouTube videos and whatnot. And so far it has been really, really great. We have a lot of interactions with the different product teams at SAP and executives, and we're trying to provide as much insights and feedback as we can to improve SAP and vice versa, right? SAP improving us as a group. So everything's great.
That's awesome to hear. So I know that you also have like a podcast where you speak on these topics. Could you tell us a little bit about the podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. So the podcast is called Cloud Corners. It's myself and Lucia Subatin. And we basically talk about the intersections between SAP and Google Cloud Platform and how all these new technologies are taking place at a customer side and from a development and infrastructure perspective. What we're trying to give to everyone is just insights about how to get there from your app development job on the daily basis to try to upskill yourself into going into different technologies. I'm not going to say more modern because, as we know, ABAP is evolving pretty fast so far. And today we saw an glance of what a steampunk can deliver and is currently doing. But we're just taking it into a different route, exploring the hyperscalers route.
That's really great. So what are some of the sessions that you're looking forward to moving forward with the event?
Yeah, so basically today I have a lot of fun already with the BTP best practices from Anja. To be honest, like what we do at Savanta, we heavily focus on extending, creating side-by-side extensions, and also extending certain functionality. And we are heavily using BTP. So my intentions for this TechEd this year is just to see everything that is new around BTP. What can we do better as we are doing it today, and and what could actually maybe have an exchange with some people in the chats about different ideas, how to achieve certain things. Luckily for us, we have been working with SAP Cloud Platform and now BTP, since the very beginning. So we did a lot of Neo work, and now we're heavily working on Cloud Foundry. So that's what I'm basically looking for. So I'm going to the sessions search and just looking for expert sessions. There's a couple of extensions around sales and with BTP and so on and so forth. So that's kind of my focus for this TechEd.
That's awesome. So speaking of TechEd, how many TechEds have you attended so far?
That's a good question. I always do both locations.
Yeah.
I always do the US and also Europe. So I will say roughly 10. As I'm in Argentina, I speak Spanish, so Barcelona is a must for me. So I definitely have to be there. But yeah, so roughly 10 tickets.
That's great. Now, I have to ask you, since I am a part of the social media wall, have you been taking part in the social media Tech Ed event and just like sharing any pictures or any thoughts throughout the event lately?
So I have been very active on the chat. I usually do Twitter at night, as my daughters are 1.5 and 3, so they really don't allow me to use my phone at all. But definitely I'm going to be doing some social media at night. But I have been doing on the chats, asking some questions. It was very interesting, keynote expert panel with Julia, with Thomas, and with Jürgen. So a lot of really good questions there to iterate, and then later on to take social media and just discuss it with a broader community there as well.
That is great. Well, we're looking forward to all your tweets and posts throughout the event. So I'm looking forward to see your tweet in our social media wall soon. Thank you so much, Diego, for taking the time to speak with us on the remote check-in, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks a lot, and have a good night, okay? And enjoy,
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
So great to hear from Diego. Great to see one of the people from our audience checking in with us, letting us know how they're feeling about the event. So it looks like he's enjoying it. 10 Tech Eds already so far.
Right.
So, yeah, very cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited that he's able to actually, be able to have this conversation with us, especially with just a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. It could get really hectic during the day, so I'm really happy.
For sure. And it just adds in the nice element, right? That we're here, we're in the virtual Tech Ed, but we're still able to connect with the audience and have them come in and share their impressions. So really a great element to the show.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Also, those 10 Tech Eds is really impressive, right? Being on 10 Tech Eds like over the last years, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I feel like that's a flex. For me, this is my first Tech Ed, so I'm slowly building up to that. Yep, so now we're going to transition into the social media wall. The first post that we have that came into the thing is the announcement from the executive keynote for SAP S/4HANA free trial. So a lot of people are super excited about that. The next one that we have also from our social media wall is our our SAP developer advocate, Rich Hellman, his dog, Sully. So he shared his SAP Tech Ed pet with us today.
You know what? Like one thing about his dog, like we were sitting yesterday night, like together, just like recapping the day, right? And we were like all like sitting there, all of the team, and we're sharing dog pictures, right, of our dogs. So Thomas Young, Rich, myself, we all have dogs. So we were talking about our dogs, and Maris was just sitting there, just like looking at dog pictures, and like, look at my dog. Mine is more cuter. No, mine. So yeah, his dog is amazing.
Yes, Sully is super cute, and I'm happy that he was able to be a part of our social media wall. So yeah, shout out to Sully. The next post that we have is from, there it is. It's from Asai. You're giving a shout out from Japan. So we're actually having some people from Japan who are tuning into SAP Tech Ed. So hi from Japan. And then the final one that we have, also from our social media wall, is another space, which is the Copenhagen office the Copenhagen office of SAP for SAP. And you can see Gregor sharing his view of the office. So yeah, we're super excited that we're getting different people from different places sharing how they're watching Tech Ed this year.
Cecily, isn't he also a huge part in the community as well, right?
He is,
Daniel?
yes, of course. So,
So
great
we
to
all know
see
him.
him. He's going to be in one of our community talks, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
On the last day, so we're really looking forward to connecting with him and having him be here in the studio with us as well. But again, nice to always see, we have people from Japan, we have people from Copenhagen, people posting about their dogs, so it's great to see the interaction going on on social, and lots of people that are joining.
Yep.
Joining in from around the world, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Isn't that crazy?
And we've been getting home offices, and everyone's sharing some great posts throughout the event. So I'm excited to see more in store for us, and you guys will too. So if anyone is looking to have their posts shared on our social media wall, don't forget to hashtag SAP TechEd and SAP Communities, so we can be able to broadcast it here. And also with our SAP Pets, please make sure that you include them in here as well. We'll love to see more of our pets.
So is the origami challenge still on?
Yes, so the origami challenge is still going on, I believe, throughout the event. And what you'll basically have to do is just like create an image or an animal or anything like that for your origami, and we'll be able to share it on here for the origami challenge as well.
I've seen some pictures on social media about that, and they look impressive. Like
Yeah.
how they come up with like those tiny little dog thingies.
Yeah,
you know?
it's
Yeah.
super impressive. I could never do something like that.
very cool,
I don't think I'm that creative.
No, it's great. Did you join one? Did you create one? Post
I
it?
haven't had time yet, but I might
Yeah.
tomorrow. Like I have a little bit more spare time tomorrow, so I might try it out.
Maybe a crane. I think I could probably make a crane.
I think for me too. I think that's the easiest I can do. But yeah, that's all from our social media wall today. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mimiki. It was great to have you here with us too, checking in with Diego and also checking in on the activity on social. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, so it's pretty late here, right? It's almost 1 a.m.
It is almost 1 a.m. It's a new day. We did
Yeah.
our first 3 hours of Channel 1 for us too, right?
Yep.
So how was that for you?
Honestly, it's been really amazing. So I knew it was going to be a great experience. I was really looking forward to it, but it's been even better than I expected. So seeing all of the executives and the experts joining us live, to join into the live Q&A, to have the interaction with you guys have been submitting your questions, to have those community talks, to have Mike and Tammy joining us, sharing their insights. It's not the same as being at an in-person TechEd, but I still love it. It's still going so well.
It's still such an energy here, right, in the studio. Like it's really weird because there are no like audience people like here, but you still
Yeah.
kind of like have that energy of being like right there on TechEd. So
Yeah.
that's pretty amazing. So for those who haven't checked in today, couldn't watch the whole show, is there like a way for them to like see what happened today?
Yeah, of course. So you can check out all of the replays available on the event platform. So the sessions should be available on demand. The Channel 1 hours will be available probably within 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, but the other ones are already there available. And yeah, we're now going to be closing off here in Germany, and we're going to go into some of our repeats of highlights from the day. So for the hours that had a Q&A, there will still be people in the chat to support you in the Q&A. So if you want to participate in that, you can still via the event platform in the Q&A tool. So still take a look at that. It's still definitely going to be worth participating. And we also have the live chat going on with the developer advocate team, so with members of your team
Yep.
that are supporting that as well. And of course, as always, share your impressions. Just like Mimiki said, post your impressions on social media, post them in the SAP community, because we're really looking forward to seeing how you're enjoying the event and what your experience has been so far. So thank you from all of us here in the
Right.
studio, all of the moderators today, but especially from Kevin and I. It's been a great show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're going to get some rest, but if you started your day, have a great day, have a great morning, great evening, and see you next time.
Hi SAP community, my name is Martin Fischer. And I'm trying to get ready